So I use Discord a lot, and most RPG groups I talk with sorta agree there are better games than 5e. 5e is kinda a mid to low tier TTRPG. 5th edition is, however, the most popular one, mainly because Wizards of the Coast has the recognizable name on the cover, Dungeons and Dragons. But I use 5e quite a bit despite it being a lower tier game, and I wanted to kinda talk about that. So the main reason I like 5e is this book. I read the entire monster manual a while back. I got these tags all throughout it, marking monsters that I like. It has a pretty good selection of animal and NPC stat blocks in addition to hundreds of monster stat blocks, and everything is set to CR, which in my experience is a generally reliable way to gauge if your party can take a fight or not. So when I walk into a session and the party does literally anything, I can have a stat block ready pretty quick. Let me give you an example. We were in a campaign and the party, aware the drow had been capturing slaves in the area, decided to do something about it. I had no dungeon ready, but at my side I had this beautiful sci-fi module and my monster manual. So I flipped over to the inn and I found this map, which I might put on screen, for the Cathar artifact, and then I went over to the dungeon section and used it as basically the base of the dungeon. And each room I would then pull up the monster manual and quickly flip to the appropriate monster and place something to basically alter the thing from sci-fi buried treasure to drow slave camp, all during active play, while I still had 5 combats and the session took less than 3 hours. Which brings us to our second point: I can run it fast. This Twitter poll from EXP to level 3 shows that a large number of groups are taking more than 5 minutes between turns, and from stories and such, I have heard more than a few instances of multi-hour combat. That's even happened to me once or twice when a mistake was made. This can be a mixed DM and player issue, but I know the abilities of the monster and can finish my monster turns in a minute, maybe 2. And if my players do the same, a 3 to 5 round combat can take maybe 10-15 minutes. So I can run it fast, and because I know all the monsters, I know where they are, I know what their CR is, I can pull monsters out fast, allowing for running 5e to be a very quick endeavor on my end. So are you receiving these benefits of 5e that I use to say I like this system for the most part? Probably not. It involves a lot more memorization and reading. There is, however, one benefit everyone can take advantage of, and that is the Creative Commons, which was introduced relatively recently and does not look like it's going to be walked backwards. See, what the Creative Commons does is it puts a good chunk of the SRD into a kinda pseudo-public domain, and I'm capable of kinda copy-pasting that into my own thing and then altering it and otherwise adjusting it for what could be third-party books. So the potential of this that I really like is the ability to make your own player's handbook, which I haven't done yet, but is already in the process with some groups, most notably Project Black Flag by the Kobold Press. I personally plan to write my own eventually, hopefully after I'm capable of selling it to someone. So I added the Creative Commons segment in post. The next bit is talking about the speedy running that I mentioned before, which is why I'm going to tell y'all about what I currently run, Raven's Feast. This is a war game that contains fairly straightforward mechanics and is free online. Spending brief time adjusting it to the format of RPGs boils down to giving the players hireling and figuring out their stats, along with basically cutting out out-of-combat rolls wherever possible. The stat blocks are simple enough, so mid-session you can make one without any real trouble, so you get the benefits of pre-built monsters without the memorization, and the combat is one of the cleanest ways to run battles on the market in my humble opinion. Though the combat is a little simple, the complexity is made up for by giving them hirelings, and basically they command a small army dealing with other small armies. I would also like to add, since all the value I get out of 5e exists as it is, 1D&D, which is apparently just revisions now or something, though I'm gonna keep considering it 5.5, will not add any real additional value, and is likely even taking some away by cutting around short rests, so screwing with my dungeon formatting, not to mention power creep. Why don't you subscribe before you click off, and that'll be all for now.